movie ends, you are speechless. The reason for your lack of words are not because the film is some fantastic artistic achievement, but because you can't believe your eyes and ears. There was someone at one time who thought creating this movie was a good idea. Who's responsible? How was logic and common sense totally avoided? One such movie was the 1975 film The Psychotronic Man. This is Old Man Kelly, and I can't help myself. I need to know the story, the who, whens, and whys. The first thing I learned was the term psychotronic. It wasn't invented by the filmmaker, nor was it coined by film critic Michael J. Weldon, the publisher of the Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film. I found the term psychotronic referred to in this newspaper article from 1968 about the abuse of pet pills, tranquilizers, and hallucination-inducing drugs. There is a need, he continued, to bring the psychotronic drugs that affect the nervous system under worldwide control, the man said. And here's another article from 1974. It's a sixth sense in a way, he said. In Russia, they call it psychotronic energy, and religious people call it spiritual powers. Whatever you call it, it is energy released by thoughts. Who knows when this word was first used, but in 1975 there was a film called The Psychotronic Man. It was a result, as far as I can tell, of two people, Peter G. Spielson and Jack M. Sell. Let's start with Spielson. Spielson was born on October 31, 1931, and grew up in the Chicago suburbs. He graduated from Morton West High School and served in the Army during the Korean War. He became a chiropractic doctor and an insurance salesman who owned his own insurance firm in Oak Park, Illinois. He was very successful, but then he decided he wanted to pursue his real passion, acting. His first acting job was in the Anthony Quinn film A Dream of Kings. 11 years ago, I auditioned for the part in Dream of Kings, the handsome Spelson said, but unfortunately my scenes and lines wound up on the cutting room floor. Nevertheless, I was on the payroll looking for people to put into background spots. Having always been interested in films, I got deeper and deeper into it until Main Street Eagle came along. Main Street Eagle was a film written and directed by Don Smardo, and it starred Spelson, who also produced it. I often assume when an actor produces a low-budget film, it's because he helped with the money, though I don't know in this situation. The insurance business has been good to me, but it's not fulfilling enough. I think I can diversify and still keep my fingers on the pulse of the business while pursuing an acting career. Surprisingly enough, or maybe not surprisingly at all, he is being encouraged in this endeavor by his wife Mary Ann and the couple's 4 children. I've been playing most of this low profile, he said. Some of my friends have not been aware of what's been happening. An adult western will be my next project. Unfortunately, the critics weren't kind to the film. Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune had this to say: "The Hinsdale Theater, which traditionally shows quality revivals, this week is presenting Main Street Eagle, a juvenile political lecture put together by people who don't know how to make movies. It was produced by and stars Peter Spelson, an Oak Brook insurance tycoon who fancies himself a movie star. Spelson is a demon at selling insurance, but he met his match in director Don Smardo, a young Chicagoan who certainly knows how to sell himself, if not direct a movie. Smardo is unable to match even the sounds and images of a person walking up a flight of stairs. The film shamelessly uses footage of President John F. Kennedy's assassination to sell an inept story about political espionage." Sunday night, the theater manager was apologizing to customers for Main Street Eagle by giving away passes for a future attraction. Rating for Main Street Eagle, no stars. Well, Mr. Siskel, words can hurt, you know. Don Smardo would never direct another feature again, but Spielson wasn't ready to call it a day. I don't know anything about that adult western he mentioned. As far as I can tell, it was never made, but he began to write his own story. Spelson says he got the idea for The Psychotronic Man about 7 or 8 years ago. Although he admits he never experienced paranormal powers or knows anyone who has, Spelson says he's always been interested in the paranormal. There is such a thing as psychotronic powers, Spelson says. The Russians have been experimenting with it. There are some people that when psychotronic powers does surface by accident, often they themselves don't know what happened. We use this in building our character," he added. The director of the film was Jack M. Sell, who was born in 1958. Sell's experience in film had begun at an early age. He started while in high school, working as a cameraman at a television station in his hometown of Albany, Georgia. By the time he graduated from Chicago's Columbia College in 1975, he had already produced and directed both documentaries and promotional programs. Jack M. Sell, a scholarship student at Columbia College in Chicago, Illinois, has been accorded an honorable mention by the judges of the 1974 Kodak Film Festival in Rochester, New York, for his documentary, Albany Junior College: A New Beginning. Sell produced and directed his winning film last year while attending Albany Junior College in Albany, Georgia. In Chicago, Sell is employed by the Michael Reese Medical Institute as an audiovisual specialist and is producing a 1-hour documentary on the city of Chicago. Sell worked for several years in Albany as a director at the local NBC television station, hosted a weekly teen talk show for radio, and reviews motion pictures for a weekly column in the Albany Journal. Jack started his own company and tried to get into commercials. "I found it more difficult to break into commercials," Sell says. "The market is very tight, and ad agencies tend to stick with the same people they've been dealing with before. They know what they can expect from them and have a good working relationship with them. About 35% of the company's business is from TV commercials, and industrial films promoting products and corporate image make up the rest." Revenues for the first year totaled $75,000. So somehow, Spelson got together with Sell, and they decided to realize Spelson's story on film. The public will soon have a chance to see Cicero Town President Christy Burkos enjoying himself as a tough police chief. But Cicero Police Chief Art Lang needn't worry about his job. Burkos was role-playing in The Psychotronic Man, a movie being produced locally by Peter Spelson of Oak Brook. Burkos has had parts in 2 previous Spelson productions. Pete's brother, Tom, of Ginger Creek, is also involved in the movie-making firm, and the Spelson family formerly lived in Cicero. This show, like many others, will probably be shown in local theaters or distributed on a wider basis if it finds favor with larger firms. Chicago filmmaker Jack Sell currently is shooting The Psychotronic Man in Chicago. It's his first full-length motion picture, and he plans on releasing it this summer. According to an article in the Los Angeles Times, the film was made for $175,000. And according to the Psychotronic Man website, The Psychotronic Man was a low-budget independent science fiction film that was shot in 17 days in Chicago during the 70s. It was written, produced, and starred in by Peter G. Spelson, an insurance salesman and out-of-work actor who decided the best way to get into feature films was to make one himself. The Psychotronic Man was the first feature-length movie to have been shot and edited entirely in Chicago since the start of World War I. In addition to this, Chicago's longest-running mayor felt that movies that were being made at the time were rebellious and lewd and didn't want movies made in his town. After he died, that meant there wasn't much of a place to allow movies to be created in Chicago. As a result, much of The Psychotronic Man was shot without permission. That means that the high-speed car chases were fake police cars, flashing lights and sirens down the Eisenhower Expressway, as well as the running gun battles in downtown Chicago were done on the turn with no authority to do so or prior notification. The mayor he mentioned was Richard J. Daley, who was the mayor of Chicago from 1955 until his death in 1976. He thought the only films made in Chicago were about gangsters, showing the city in a mostly negative and rebellious way. He did his best to keep films from being made in the city, wanting Chicago to be seen only in a good light. So that's the legend. They had fake police cars and raced them through the streets of Chicago without permits. And when the film was completed, they had the premiere at the Carnegie Theater on April 23, 1980 at 7 p.m. And even though it was filmed illegally, the current mayor of Chicago, Mayor Jane Burns, showed up. Jack Sell may be a name to remember. If he has his way, the 25-year-old prodigy will bring back the glamour of the 20s to the movies of the 80s. His favorite aunt, Evelyn Caldwell, Mrs. Will, is just back from the world premiere of his first full-length film, The Psychotronic Man in Chicago, where she was part of the flashy opening night scene and received the full Hollywood-type treatment. Evelyn said, Jack arrived with his girl in a white limousine wearing a white tuxedo. Mayor Jane Byrne cut the ribbon to the Carnegie Theater, which was packed with crowds who were pushing and shoving to see. All I could think about was Elvis Presley, said Evelyn. So what is the Psychotronic Man? A Chicago barber named Rocky Fasco has issues. He drinks too much, doesn't seem too happy with his haircutting job, has a pathetic marriage, and is even cheating on his wife with a young beautician who works in the shop next to his. One night he's driving home, taking the long way, a very long way, drinking booze as he drives. He pulls over on Old Orchard Road and falls asleep. When he wakes, his car's floating in the air.
Again?
The next morning, after explaining to his wife that his headache was not caused by a hangover,
"But I don't have a hangover, damn it."
Well, then go see a doctor, honey.
which apparently is a daily occurrence, he goes to the doctor. When he returns to work, he has some sort of attack. A psychotronic attack, if you will.
Hey, what's with you, mister?
I gotta leave now.
Returning to the scene of the previous night, he meets an elderly and colorful man who lives in an old wooden shack that's right out of the 1940s.
Moved out here after the wife died. For some peace and quiet. But you know something? Lately, some mighty weird things been happening around here.
He has another psychotronic attack and the old man is dead. The next day, the body is found in the most unnatural way by police. Soon, Rocky returns to his doctor, and the doctor becomes another psychotronic victim, but not before he calls the police. The police, who are poor detectives at best,
God, what a mess. I knew something happened, but I didn't think it was anything like this.
now connect Rocky with the murders. After a quick fling with his beautician girlfriend, he goes home where the police are waiting outside.
Out there.
They came this morning
Hey, why didn't you tell me they were here?
because you were passed out drunk. There was no way anyone or anything could have woke you up. You slept all day.
Never mind.
Rocky has another psychotronic attack and goes after his wife. But don't worry, she's okay. He escapes from the inept detectives and the chase is on. After a long chase, Rocky is trapped with a SWAT team all around. Suddenly, a new character appears, a special intelligence agent with an overdubbed voice.
For your information, Lieutenant, this guy's a rare breed, probably the only one of his kind in this hemisphere. Our intelligence reports confirms that he possesses psychotronic powers that can well benefit our national security.
He orders the police to capture Rocky alive because, well, it's the government and that's what they do. I'm not going to spoil the end for you right now. I'll do that in a minute or two. So now, my perspective. And in my opinion, the film just doesn't work, and it starts with our protagonist, Rocky. Why should we give a damn about Rocky? He drinks so much that his wife automatically gives him an Alka-Seltzer first thing in the morning? Oh, and a side note, Alka-Seltzers usually come in pairs. Anyway, Rocky's not happy, his wife's not happy, and their kids, well, we don't know anything about them.
Well, then go see a doctor, honey.
Yes, she calls her unfaithful alcoholic husband honey, even though she knows he's getting some on the side.
What do you mean you don't know? Has it got something to do with that broad you've been seeing?
I haven't got time to explain.
Here's the thing, to make this story work, Rocky needs to be a likable character. We need to care for, sympathize, and root for Rocky, but we don't. Now, Peter Spelson wrote this story for himself, and I get that. A businessman who was trying to start an acting career, but he's not right for the part. For all you young would-be actors who are writing a screenplay as a vehicle to begin your acting career, take a few moments to look into the mirror and be honest with yourself. Are you the hero type? I think Spelson would have been better off playing a detective who's hot on the trail of a killer with psychotronic powers. And we need a little more to the story. How and why is this happening to Rocky? And is there a way for him to get cured? Perhaps Rocky could be searching for those answers, or a solution. Remember the 1941 film The Wolfman, which is the same basic story as this? Lon Chaney Jr. looks for answers, and then when he's given a charm that will prevent the transformation, he gives it to his girlfriend instead for her protection. Does Rocky ever make any such sacrifice? No, he just runs and runs and runs. And the end, and sorry to spoil it, but the "it's not over yet" ending is just silly.
10-4. Damn, Lieutenant, he's not down there.
Why does this ending work in the original Halloween? That's because the plot revolved around Laurie Strode, and when she's rescued by Dr. Loomis, the story's over. That story didn't revolve around Michael Myers. Since this story is about Rocky, the film never really comes to an end. And let's talk about the music. This chiming bell gets irritating very quickly. And this waka waka sound, what is that? The music was created by Tommy Irons, and as far as I know, this was the only film he ever worked on. But we do get to enjoy rockin' tunes like this one. And some tunes that have a more southern flair.
Right now, a song that's sweeping the country and western charts, Truck Driving Blues by the Tex Johnston Band.
Now more from the film's website. Beyond good or bad, and in a whole other category completely, it's gloriously weird and certain to alienate nearly any viewer who stumbles across it, aside from those select few who will celebrate it for precisely these reasons. And now, 20 plus years later, the movie lives on as the grandfather of all low-budget, undefinable independent films. It's developing a renewed cult status. Join us on MySpace. And so the movie slowly fell into obscurity. And if you're like me, you never heard of it before until it appeared on Riff Tracks. It's really the best way to watch it. By the way, Michael J. Weldon's The Psychotronic Encyclopedia of Film said this of the movie. An extremely low-budget independent from Chicago, the producer, whose main occupation was running an insurance business, stars as Rocky Fasco, the psychic barber. unknown forces cause him to blink at people who die instantly or jump out of windows. Reports suggest it's good for a laugh. Great title, though. And as of this recording, Jack Amsel is still alive. He made a few films after, Outtakes from 1987 and Deadly Spy Games from 1989. He has all his films published on his YouTube channel, and you can watch them for free, so thank you, Mr. Sell. Sadly, Peter Spelson passed away in 2006. He was still married to Marianne and had his 4 children. This was written on his memorial page. I would like to offer my deepest sympathy to the entire Spelson family during these difficult times. Pete was a sharp, witty, charismatic, and charming man. Simply put, he was a great guy. We miss you, Uncle Pete. John Egan. And lastly, I want to add that, although I made fun of this film, like everybody seems to do, my heart still goes out to everybody who worked on it. I mean, it's easy to make fun, but to make a film, a feature film, especially before the days of digital photography, that was a major achievement, and I respect anybody who can get something like this made. It was a very brave attempt to try to do something different, and whether it worked or not, well, that's up to the viewer.
What did you mean by that?
What?